Hey, it's our favorite day, Mailbag Monday, and you asked, can Suarez, Detmers, and Sandoval be trusted next year? Will Don Mattingly actually come to the Angels because he's leaving the Marlins? And what does the offseason look like for this podcast, for John and I? All that and more will be answered. You're Locked On with Mike and John, and this is Locked On Angels.
You are Locked On Angels, your daily Los Angeles Angels podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And thanks for making Locked On Angels your first listen of the day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcast. And you can give us a rate and a review. It helps others to find the podcast. You can do that on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. And if you're watching on YouTube, you can subscribe and click the bell to be notified every time a new episode drops.
Happy Monday to you, and thank you for tuning in to Locked On Angels, where it's your team every single day. You've got the Frisch Brothers, a.k.a. the Super Halo Bros. My name is John, and that's my brother Mike.
And my name is Mike, and that's my brother John.
Mike, we had ourselves quite a weekend for the Halos in Minnesota against the Twins. It was great to get some wins and take the series 2 games to 1, which was great to see. But Friday, Saturday, Sunday, a good 3-game matchup. And Friday, it all started with a little bit of rain and a lot of bit of Ohtani on the mound. Talk about that one.
Yeah, he went 5 innings, 3 hits, 2 runs. The thing that he struggled with is the thing that he struggled with in the past that he kind of cleaned up, but I wonder if the weather affected him. That 6 walks, that was hard, right? And come on, that umpire was squeezing him. There was a couple of times where he was like, what? But then when he got his 200th strikeout, that was actually a ball. That was not a strikeout, but maybe it was a do-over or a makeup. He had 7 Ks, so that was great. And 14th win, Johnny, for Shohei Ohtani.
That's right.
Get this. He has the most wins for an Angel starter since Garrett Richards won 15 games in 2015. It's been
the last time we were good.
15 years. Or maybe 7 years, but it's been a long time since
feels like
the
15.
Angels have since the Angels have had a really good starter who's won that many games. And get this, Ohtani is the first Angel to record 200 strikeouts in a season since Jared Weaver, since 2010. It's been 12 years since that has happened. And so I think we all can go, yeah, we've felt that. We've experienced that. And Shohei becomes the first player ever to have 200 strikeouts as a pitcher and hit 8+ home runs as a batter in a major league season.
Wait. The only one?
The only one, John? Yes,
the only
first
one?
Ever.
Shohei has done something that nobody else in the history of Major League Baseball has ever done. And he did something else again? Just him? By himself? Only Shohei? That sounds like an MVP to me.
I was watching Twitter, John, and it was driving me nuts. Somebody tweeted, when they showed that stat, somebody tweeted and said, well, those other guys didn't actually hit when they weren't pitching, and so that's really an unfair stat. It's like, that's the point, stupid.
Get out of here.
That's the point.
Go back to school.
Speaking of hitting really well, Taylor Ward decides that he's actually healthy, and he's going to look like the Taylor Ward of April and May. He hits 2 home runs in this game. And then
he listens
Johnny,
to Locked On Angels.
Who doesn't, right? And Johnny, let's talk about Aaron Loup. Inherits the bases loaded, nobody out, and he gets out of it with a strikeout and a double play. That's the Aaron Loup that we've needed all year long. And so it was great to see Angels win that game on Friday, 4-2. Shohei gets his 14th. Really, really great game.
Yeah, Aaron Loup doing things that would have been nice earlier in the season, but such is life, I guess. Let's move on to Saturday, where no, not at all. The Angels lost this one 8-4. It was their 86th loss, more than last year. If you would have told me that last year's team was going to be better than this year's team, I would have laughed. I would have taken that bet, and I stand very corrected. Reed Detmers allowed 5 runs. 4 of those were earned over 4+ innings pitched. Not his best outing.
No.
Of course, Mike Trout had an RBI single and a sac fly. Shohei Ohtani had a 2-run single. So those bats, Troutani, they just are unstoppable. But while the game was still close,
come on,
you have Mike Myers come in and replace Reed Detmers in the 5th. And wouldn't you know it, he gives up a 3-run home run to Gary Sanchez, who Gary Sanchez is not the guy that you want to be serving cookies up to. He's a catcher, but he can hit home runs, and he did that. Certainly, I'm over the Mike Myers experience. It's time for him to go. Cut him loose. I don't even have to wait till the end of the season. Just DFA now.
Right.
If the Yankees can DFA Miguel Andujar right now, then we can certainly DFA Mike Myers right now. By the way, the Pittsburgh Pirates picked up Andujar, by the way. So there goes our dream of picking him up.
Angels still breaking our hearts, right?
Yeah.
Johnny, how did this work out? I got the 2 good games and you got the terrible game. I don't know how that worked out, but let's talk about Sunday for a moment. We won 10-3 on Sunday, and there was an old friend alert. John Dylan Bundy reminded us that this is why we let him go, because he didn't look good at all on Sunday. And Trout actually hit him really hard. 37th home run in this game. He had 2 doubles in this game. Again, I'm a broken record. It's a shame that guy had to retire. And then Ohtani had his 93rd RBI. And so hopefully he can get to 100 and make it really, really difficult on those Yankee fans who want Aaron Judge to win the MVP to try to find a reason or an excuse to shut down Shohei Ohtani, because it's not going to happen, right?
Well, guess what? Everybody in this game had a hit in the starting 9, which was incredible to see. Even Michael Stefanik had a multi-hit game. He looked really good, and he was able to contribute there. Luis Rengifo. Luis Rengifo had 2 RBIs. Livan Soto had a nice RBI double. And man, I think he went 5 for 10 in this weekend series.
Attaboy.
Guy's looking like a stud. Jose Suarez went 5 2/3. It got a little bit dicey for him at times, and it wasn't his most efficient outing. And you know what I noticed? That pacing, Mike, he's just so slow between pitches. Yeah. He really gets in his head, and you can see it. Now he was working with a new slider grip, and he actually got plus 4 miles per hour on that grip. It reported after the game. So he went 5 2/3, 6 strikeouts, got his 7th win. He's now 7-8 on the year, which is great to see.
You know, I wonder if that pitch clock is actually really going to help him. You mentioned that on the pod a few weeks ago, but I wonder if that pitch clock is actually going to be the thing that helps Suarez move from kind of a mediocre middle of the rotation pitcher to a top of the line pitcher, because we've seen him pitch really well when he has a great pace. And yesterday's game, his pace at times was great. And then there was other times where it was like, it's been like 20 minutes since you threw your last pitch, bro. You got to get out there, right?
Well, and you see it.
And that's on Stassi. Stassi's got to be like, come on, let's go. Let's get this going. But he just didn't seem to get him going at all. So
when his pacing and his timing isn't great, his efficiency is not great either. Yeah. And so the pitch count starts to climb really high for him. And I would say the same for even Patrick Sandoval, that he can find himself at times taking way too long between pitches.
Yes.
And that's when you see the efficiency dip. These guys, they got to stay locked in and just keep hitting the zone. And we got to see that more from these starters.
Locked on.
There you go. Yeah. So all in all, a great weekend against Minnesota. I mentioned these are 2 teams that had very high hopes at the beginning of this season. In fact, Minnesota was in first place longer than we were in the win column in the AL West. So Minnesota has had kind of a worse fall from grace, I think you could say. One thing I did like was seeing Mike Trout at second base and his buddy Carlos Correa and him having a good laugh together. So if I were a employable, a desirable candidate for another team, and my buddy worked on another team, I'd want to go work with my buddy Mike Trout
why not
on the Angels. So
full heel turn. Let's go.
Yeah, let's go. We're the evil empire now. I love it.
Coming up on Locked On Angels, can Suarez, Detmers, and Sandoval be trusted next year? We're going to answer that question. But first, Locked On Angels is brought to you by LinkedIn Jobs. These days, every new potential hire can feel like a high-stakes wager for you and your small business, and you want to be 100% certain that you have access to the best qualified candidates available. And that's why you got to check out LinkedIn Jobs. They are here to help you to find the right people for your team faster and for free. You can create a job post in minutes on LinkedIn Jobs to reach your network, those that you're connected with, and beyond to the world's largest professional network of over, get this, 810 million people. Add your job and then the purple hashtag hiring frame to your LinkedIn profile. That will help spread the word that you're hiring to your network, and they can also help you find the right people to hire. And then there's simple tools like screening questions that make it easy to focus on the candidates with just the right skills and experience so that you can quickly prioritize who you'd like to interview and hire. And it's why small businesses rate LinkedIn Jobs #1 in delivering quality hires versus leading competitors. So as you gear up for the fall, this is an opportunity for you to get your small business to fire on all the right cylinders. LinkedIn Jobs is here to make it easy for you. So post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedonmlb. That's linkedin.com/lockedonmlb to post your job for free. And there are some terms and conditions that do apply.
We want to thank you for making Locked On Angels your first listen of the day. And if you're interested, we have the end of the season 2022 roster grade survey happening.
Johnny's
right
excited
now.
about this one.
And Mike, we've already had 75 people fill out the survey, share their grades of the team, all the individual members of the team, and their comments too. And there's some great
comments are fun. I just want to say those comments are great.
There's some comments that we can't share on the show,
yes.
and that's okay. We feel your frustration, but please check the link in the episode description where you can jump into the quiz or the survey and take that. And then we will share the results of that once the regular season is over. Now, let's get into some voicemails. We've got 4 voicemails for this segment.
Heck yeah.
Let's start with one right now.
Okay, John. This is Tyler, the mailman. I just saw the alert on my phone a couple minutes ago. Don Mattingly resigns from the Marlins. Was wondering, could he be a good fit in Anaheim? Who knows? It must have been a mutual decision for both parties because Don Mattingly is a legacy player and figure within baseball. But I feel that a former player and a somewhat decent manager could perhaps fix the Angels' offensive woes heading into 2023. So I just thought I'd give a call and see what you guys thought about Don Mattingly potentially being a potential Angels manager next season.
I like that he gave himself a nickname. Tyler, the mailman. Thank you for your voicemail. Appreciate that. Unless I didn't hear that correctly, but I think he did say mailman. Maybe he's a mailman. He's in our mailbag.
Does he know Newman?
I know. Newman. Jerry. Hello, Jerry. So, Mike, with Don Mattingly mutually parting ways, quote unquote, with the Marlins, that brings up a good question if he's a potential fit for the Angels. Before I ask for your thoughts, a couple of quick thoughts here. He had a winning record with the Dodgers as the Dodgers manager before he was asked to depart and quote unquote again. And then you have to consider that incredible, I know it was 60 games, but that incredible ability to get to the postseason in 2020 when all of their players got COVID and they brought in all these replacement guys.
Right, I remember
somehow
that.
the Marlins managed to get into the playoffs, which was insane. And I did a little bit of Reddit research. I went on to the Marlins Reddit thread, and they were talking about Mattingly because I wanted to get a sense of how the fans felt about Mattingly. And 2 things stood out to me. One, he's a great clubhouse guy. He's a great manager in terms of culture and connecting with the players. Another thing that stood out to me was that a lot of fans didn't feel like the issues in Miami were his fault. It's more of an ownership thing. That sounds familiar. And the other thing that stood out to me was bullpen management, and they didn't get into the specifics of that. That's something that has frustrated you and I, especially. That was one of the big reasons why we were frustrated with Joe Madden earlier this season was the bullpen management. So those are some things that stood out to me about Donnie Baseball. But what do you think about Mattingly as the manager?
He's Donnie Baseball, so I think you got to give him a look. But initially, it feels like outside of that 60-game season, it feels like Don Mattingly wins with an ownership that's going to spend some money, and he struggles with winning with an ownership that has a limited budget. And so I think with the Angels this next season, we're still not sure what the offseason is going to look like in light of this potential sale. And so I don't know if he would be the right guy to come in and say, here's what's going to happen. Here's how we're going to be. Here's the team. It might be wise for the Angels to give him an interview, but maybe perhaps move on. I think they got to bring in somebody a bit young and maybe somebody who needs some experience, because you want somebody like a Sosha back in the year 99 when he first got hired, or 2000 when he got hired. Like, bring somebody in like that has the potential to grow with your organization. I think Mattingly's great. I just don't know if he'd be a right fit for us.
Hey, we had a great voicemail come in the day that the Angels were officially eliminated from playoff contention, which we all knew was coming. But this voicemail came in that day.
Okay.
Relief. We're finally eliminated 8 years in a row. And we can look back at some of the greats that they surrounded Mike Trout with. Matt Harvey, Junior Guerra, Sledgers. Oh, my God. Please, hopefully the club is sold within the next month and we can turn an ugly page on 8 years of, I don't even think you can call it mediocrity. Ted and Dustin, can't wait to hear tomorrow. See ya.
Ted and Dustin, what a great voicemail.
That was my favorite voicemail of all time. Just like he's like, we surround Trout with Matt Harvey and Junior Guerra and Sledgers. And then he goes, oh my God. We all feel your pain, Ted. What a great call. And you're right. We need to surround Trout with some quality players, some quality guys, not guys that we go and get that have been DFA'd, not guys that we go and get that are kind of mediocrely good, right?
Or guys that were good like 10 years ago.
Like they were good 10 years ago. Like, that's why I love these young guys that are coming up. It's why I love Stefanik and Soto. We need to surround these guys with good guys, but I just keep like, you're right. Like Matt Harvey, Junior Guerra, Sledgers. Like, that was a great pull, bro. That was a great pull.
Seriously, man, though. What a waste of time. Like, what are we doing this whole past
God's
decade?
Name are we doing? Yes.
Seriously.
Right.
Like, I don't blame Ted one bit. I think he speaks for all of us. Like,
yes.
Like, I don't even think you can call it mediocrity, is what Ted said. That's hilarious because it's worse than mediocrity. It's not even trying.
Right. You can't make those decisions. Those are terrible decisions. And Perry's got to correct that this offseason and make some really good moves. I think this is a pivotal offseason for Perry to prove himself, because he's going into year 3, and year 3 is when you really start to put your fingerprints all over the organization that you're leading.
And I think 2022 was a step in the right direction, especially the offseason. I know that Tepera and Loop, and we traded Rysel and everything, and Syndergaard. I know that those didn't really work out, like especially like with Loop, but you look at their track record and they should have worked out. And that's the way baseball is sometimes, but at least he worked to make the improvements, and he didn't get the Junior Guerras of the world and the Aaron Sledgers of the world. He went out and got guys who had good stats in the previous
a proven
year.
track record.
Yeah. Hey, let's go to this message. We got actually a DM in our Instagram from Anthony in Paris, and then he called us with this follow-up message.
Hello, bros. How's it going? Anthony from Paris calling. Quick little update. I gave you guys a message about a week or two ago about getting eye surgery. Just letting you guys know I can see your pretty faces again. I just had a quick question for you guys. I feel like this is an interesting one. Maybe you guys can put in your 2 cents about it. If the AA Trash Pandas and were to face off against the Angels, who do you guys think would win? It's something that I've kind of been thinking about in the back of my head. Thanks for taking my call, guys.
Anthony from Paris, thanks for giving us the update. We're glad that the eye surgery went well. And me and him were going back and forth on the GM. He was letting us know. And so, yes, he is one of 5 people in this world, Mike, who thinks we have a pretty face. Actually, 4 people. Our wives and mom and Anthony. I love that. I'm glad you can see our face again. Yeah, that's right. I think you got a pretty face, Mike. Hey, so if the Trash Pandas and the Angels were to face off, who do you think would win?
I don't know. That pitching staff for the Trash Pandas look like they would be pretty hard to hit. And so I think outside of the top 3, Ward, Ohtani, and Trout, I think the Trash Pandas have a great shot at beating the Angels, honestly, because every other team that we've played, if they get past those top 3 guys, it's an easy breeze through that lineup because that lineup has not been great all season long.
Now, do the Angels get Soto, or does the Trash Pandas, do they get
I would say as
Livan
is.
Soto?
I would say as is
All
right now. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, as is right now. I think it'd be close, honestly. It sounds funny to say that, but I think it'd be close. Those young guys, I have a lot of hope because I think that they're really going to bring some great energy and great culture to the Angels soon.
Agreed. Hey, let's go to one last voicemail here.
What's up, Halo Bros? This is David in San Mateo, California. One of the highlights of this season has been this podcast. I want to thank you for providing this place of belonging where we can connect with our fellow Angel fans. My only question regarding the off-season and next season is this. Will the Halo Brothers and this podcast return in 2023? Thank you.
David in San Mateo, thanks for giving us a call. Thanks for the kind words. Yes, everyone, Locked On Angels listeners, Mike and I will be here through the off season. Yep. And of course, over the off season, we do, I think we go down to about 3 episodes a week rather than 5, just because there's not as much happening. But anytime that there's news, you know that you can follow us at Locked On Angels on Twitter or at Super Halo Bros on Twitter and Instagram. And we're going to be all over the news during the off season. We got some fun stuff planned for the off season. And of course, we'll be back for more in 2023, more good news, more suffering. Who knows what the future holds, but we know that we'll be here at Locked On Angels.
Heck yeah, we'll be able to talk through spring training. We'll be able to talk through the beginning of the season because this season we started April 11th. I look back. We weren't able to talk about the team to start, and so we'll be able to have all those conversations, and we're excited about that.
Hey, Mike, as we continue our Monday mailbag, we got 2 questions that I thought were funny because they're kind of opposite ends of the spectrum.
Yeah,
so
they're good.
Let me start with this one from Instagram from Fim_Ponlawith. Says, for some reason, I think that our starting rotation ain't that bad when comparing to other teams. On the other hand, good old Locked On Angels listener Ruben Rosas said, can Detmers, Suarez, and Sandoval be trusted next year? They sometimes give me Andrew Heaney vibes and that they have a lot of potential, but they make you nervous when they get in trouble. Heaney and his inconsistencies always frustrated me, hoping they don't follow the same path. So 2 fans, 2 Locked On Angels listeners, 2 Monday mailbag questions with kind of opposite ends of the spectrum there. What do you think, Mike?
I actually am going to go with, I feel confident in these 3 guys. And so I think that they can be trusted for next season. And I think they're different than Andrew Heaney just because I think that they have a different approach and they have better stuff. And I think for Andrew, he was a good dude. He was a 5th starter. I think those 3 guys, Detmer, Suarez, and Sandoval, in a rotation without Ohtani are probably 1, 2, and 3. And so I think
in way over their head, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that they've shown that they can be trusted. And we talked about Logan Gilbert a couple of times from the Mariners on this pod, and he was given the chance to really kind of work it out last season. And this season, it's proven to be a really great idea to have him work it out last season. And so I think with those 3 guys, Detmers, Suarez, and Sandoval, they've worked it out. And I think that they can be trusted. I think we're going to really be excited about who they are in 2023. What do you think?
At best, you got Reed Detmers throwing a no-hitter. You've got Patrick Sandoval getting a complete game. Jose Suarez has a complete game in his history. At worst, they're going to go 5 innings. And that's what I think. 5 innings, 3 runs. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And with Heaney, it was so Jekyll and Hyde. One day he's striking out 10 batters. The next day he's given up 5 home runs in 3 innings, right?
Third,
and it was just so Jekyll and Hyde with Andrew Heaney. So as I've been watching these guys this season, I feel like they are to be trusted. And to your point, I think in a rotation without Ohtani, like I was saying, these guys are probably in over their head. And I think that's what happened with Andrew Heaney for the last few years. He pitched in a rotation that just lost Jared Weaver to the end of his contract. Garrett Richards went and got hurt. I'm trying to think of who else. There's just not that many great pitchers over the last few years.
Yeah.
And Andrew Heaney was like the one constant and one consistent pitcher. I think he had one season where he was out. That might have been 2015, 2016. But but that's a lot of pressure on him. And I think that through his Angels tenure, he probably felt that pressure.
Yeah, I think he proved that he is a middle of the rotation guy when he went to the Dodgers and even with the Yankees, but with the Dodgers more. When he's not the guy that everybody's waiting for, you have Walker Buehler and you have Clayton Kershaw, and then it's like, oh yeah, he's going to eat up some innings. That's who he is. I don't think Detmer, Suarez, and Sandoval are eating up innings guys. I think that they're guys that are going to get victories for you. Johnny, speaking of pitching, King Panda 1 talked about who you'd like to see in the rotation next year. And he mentions a guy that you've talked about pretty often, Aaron Nola. And so I'm interested. Are you still hyped on Aaron Nola, or have you tapered that at all, or do you think that he could be somebody if they actually, I think they have to release him or they don't pick up the option or something, but if he's available, do you think we go get him?
Yeah, the Phillies have a team option for Aaron Nola, so they would have to say no to Nola. And I'm not confident that that's going to happen. I think the Phillies
I don't think they would.
will pick him up again. The reason why I got so hyped on Aaron Nola was he was the best pitcher on my fantasy team. And watching him pitch,
that's how you know,
his
right?
Stats, he didn't have the best record off the top of my head. However, most of the time it wasn't his fault. It was just a lack of run support for him.
Yeah.
King Panda also mentions Carlos Rodon, and that would be an interesting option as well. And then he even mentioned some shortstop and outfield options. Of course, Correa, Dansby Swanson, Michael Brantley in the outfield, Jock Peterson possibly. So I think you and I, Mike, agree that it would be great to see a solid shortstop and probably somebody in the outfield to pick up that left field spot, because that has been such a hole for us over the years. And then Justin Upton came in, looked really good in his first year, and then really fell off after that. And I think the Angels really need to sign somebody to be reliable in the outfield, like a Jock Peterson or Michael Brantley. I think I would feel comfortable with Jock, maybe like last year's version of Jock, but it might not be a bad option. I know Michael Brantley's a little bit older. We've mentioned him several times before. But what do you think about King Panda's options here in terms of guys to get after the offseason?
Yeah, Brantley feels like that guy. I'm going to put Brantley in the Junior Guerra, Matt Harvey category. Like,
really?
He was good. Yeah, just because he was good a while ago, and
he's been consistent, man.
Has he? There's something about him that makes me go, I feel like he would fall apart or he would break down once
he's been hurt this season with the Astros, but no, I mean, he's a 280, 300 hitter like the last 10 years. It's insane.
I just don't want to frustrate Ted and Tustin anymore, because that guy, he just seems so mad. I like Jock Peterson. I think that would actually be a great move. He's not a high average guy, but he does walk and he does hit for power and he plays a good outfield. So I think that would be a great benefit with Trout and with Ward out in the outfield together.
Hey, this is a great question from John Marcadent. He messaged us on Instagram. It's a great last name. I wish I could say it right. Is Rengifo getting hot bad for the Angels? And what I mean by that is, once Anthony Rendon comes back, what are the odds management doesn't go out and sign a big time shortstop or keeps Rengifo at second and Fletch at shortstop? So what do you think about that? Is Rengifo and the way he's heated up over the last 2 months, is that a bad thing going into the offseason?
Here's the reality. He's cheap. And if this is who he is, then I could see Perry going, let's go with Fletch, Rendon, and Rengifo in the middle of the infield and on the left side of the infield. My gut tells me they're not going to go get a good shortstop. It's going to be Rengifo or Fletch because financially they're going to try to keep Ohtani, and they're probably going to try to get another pitcher and maybe go get an outfielder. And so I don't think they're going to go after like a Swanson or a Turner. I think they're actually going to see Rengifo and what he actually can do. And he's proven his worth. And if this is who he is, if he's Eric Ibar, but with a little bit more power, then it'd be great to have him out there. And if Anthony Rendon can hit, then I don't think that you're going to feel the hole at short. And so I think they're going to stick. And I think it's going to be first a financial decision. And then second, because I think they're really going to expect Anthony Rendon to be who he can be and be that guy in the next season.
Watching Trout get his 37th home run and knowing that Anthony Rendon was pretty clutch at the beginning of the season, it just makes me so frustrated to know that when they're out for any period of time in the season, there's nobody to take their spot. There's absolutely no one. And that's why it does scare me that they won't make a decision in the infield for another player, because I want to see Fletcher step into the role of somebody who gets hurt. I want to see Rengifo step in at third when Anthony Rendon gets hurt. Not that they shouldn't get everyday playing time. Maybe they're taking time at second base or whatever, but we don't have any depth. And when one guy gets hurt, then it's a huge hole in the lineup, and we're right back to where we started again. So I share John's fear going into the offseason about Rengifo. I hope that the Angels will make the right choice, or like you said, consider the fact that they're saving money on the infield with Rengifo and spend that money elsewhere, like with pitching or the bullpen or the outfield. Hey, we got a fun question here. The Goats of MLB_Angels says, if you could hang out with any Angels player, who would you choose and what would you do? What would you pick, Mike?
John, I would hang out with Tim Salmon. I know he's not on the roster right now.
Come on.
It's Timmy Salmon, right? I got to hang out with that guy. And I would just, I don't know what I would do. We'd go to lunch and I'd ask a ton of questions to Tim. If it was going to be a guy on the roster, it would be Shohei Ohtani. I would want to hang out with that guy because this guy is the most humble guy in the entire world. And I would love to know all about him and how he got started, and probably ask him all sorts of questions that are non-baseball related, like what video games do you play, and all of that
the
stuff.
Show,
who would you hang out
obviously.
With? Yeah, come on. Who would you hang out with?
I'm taking Jared Walsh, man. I'm hanging out with Walshy, and we're gonna go to a baseball game because I just want to sit and chat with that guy and crack jokes and laugh at stuff and people around us in the stands. So
he was great on the broadcast a couple of days ago, wasn't he? Yeah, he was fantastic.
Let's get him back on.
What a talent!
What a talent!
All right, let's see what we got here. Another question from BTC525 said, "What food isn't at the Big A that should be there, Johnny?"
Ooh, you know what we're missing, Mike? We're missing the trash wrap. Did you see the Trash Pandas post that at their stadium?
No.
It's like the most disgusting thing. It's like a hot dog in a wrap with like chili and cheese and chips and all kinds of like the garbage wrap. It's called the garbage wrap, I think.
Okay.
And then the Rangers have the boomstick, which is like that huge hot dog. The Angels don't have like ridiculous, gross thing that nobody should eat, but you do it because you're at the ballpark and you want to say that you had one. Like the chili cheese, Mile High, Cheetos, Frito surprise. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
the heart attack hot dog. You know what I mean? The Angels don't have something like, now correct me if I'm wrong, Locked On Angels listeners, but I don't think the Angels have anything like that other than like helmet nachos, which is not very like over the top. We need an over the top, ridiculous food item that we can regret the next day. That's what I think is missing from the Big A. What do you think?
We need a Dodger dog like that's
like equivalent.
Right. Yeah. We need something that you're like, oh, I got to go and get a Dodger dog because, it's regular,
like an iconic
hot dog that's large. We need an iconic thing. I can't think of the iconic thing at Angel Stadium right now. Helmet nachos is great, and then you get the plain ice cream because you're Corey. But like
Corey Matthews,
I can't think of I can't think of the thing that would be like you got to go and you got to have this. So we need the thing. All right. So somebody's got to come up with the thing.
That would be some good content over the off season. I like that. Last question here is from Aggie Nicky. We always appreciate your questions, Aggie Nicky. And I feel bad because I feel like he had a question last week that we were also like, we'll cover that in the off season, but he's got another one. What is your dream off season? That one I want to spend a lot of time on. So again, Aggie Nicky, please hang with us because
asking all the great questions.
He's asking all the great questions. He's providing all the content for us for the off season. But Mike, I think that you and I would benefit from spending some time thinking about our dream off season, not just players, not just management, but even to the extent of who buys the team. Right. When do they buy the team?
That's immediately
what happens at the winter meetings, that sort of thing. So I would like to dream and imagine a little bit more and have that be a full episode. So Aggie Nicky, we will definitely address this on a future episode. But thank you for everybody who wrote in and submitted questions and for the voicemails. We really appreciate you guys making Mailbag Monday our favorite day of the week.
And thanks for making Locked On Angels your first listen today. Now make your second listen to Locked On MLB Podcast with Paul Francis Sullivan. Please call him Sully. He brings humor, passion, and a unique perspective on every team and shares some of the biggest stories from around the league. You can follow this #1 daily league-wide podcast, Locked On MLB, on the Odyssey app, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Don't forget to give us a follow at Locked On Angels on Twitter, and of course at Super Halo Bros on Twitter and Instagram. You can connect with Mike and I there. And of course, don't forget to jump in to the 2022 player roster survey. Grade each member of the Angels. Send in your comments. Like I said, we've got about 75 respondents, and we're going to keep running that through the end of the regular season. But Mike, what do we have on deck for tomorrow's show?
John read an interesting article about why it might be hard for Ohtani to get the raise that he deserves from the Angels in arbitration. So we're going to talk a little bit about that and all the details in arbitration. If the Angels don't lock him up for like a long-term deal, why he may not get what he deserves in arbitration is an interesting conversation, and we'll have that tomorrow on Locked On Angels.
That's going to do it for this edition of Locked On Angels. We appreciate you tuning in. Until tomorrow's show, my name is John, and that's my brother Mike.
And my name is Mike, and that's my brother John.
And we'll see you right back here tomorrow for more Locked On Angels.